Hello everyone, this is Good for Brush Studios, and today we're looking at my biggest Bionicle mock to date, the Great Spirit Robot with Glatorian Motunui. So he's pretty big. He uses Hero Factory standard hero-sized torsos for legs, so he's pretty big. Now for a head, he uses a silver Generation 1 Liwa mask, and his actual internal head bit is from some old... one of the Rahi sets. I don't know which one. Just an old Rahi set. He's got those green spikes on his shoulder are from an old Lego castle set, I believe. His hand build is pretty similar to Axon, but with different fingers. I went this with stubbier fingers because I thought that fit more the Great Spirit Robot than having just massive hands. In his chest there, you can see that Keto orange color. That's the Glatorian Motunui all folded up. Now, he can actually be removed, Glatorian Motunui, and he can be removed and you can still have the Great Spirit Robot, because at some point I'm going to build a Makuta that is around the same size as the Motunui, and I want the Makuta to be able to go in there as well and have Motunui outside of it. I'm not going to build a prototype robot though, because I used up most of my Technic parts building this and then some other Bionicle mocks. So he's not very poseable just because almost all of his weight's in his torso. But let's get a close-up look at him. So he's got some vegetation in his torso and stuff. He's got some coming off of his shoulders, on his lower legs there. He's got some because since it's the Great Spirit Robot, like the original Matoran universe, but with Motunui inside of it, it would still have like vegetation and stuff hanging off of it because it like just came out of the area. So I will grab some of my other mocks to show around the height of this guy. Okay, so here he is next to, whoops, this guy's feet are terrible. It's hard to stand him up, but there he is next to a deluxe class Studio Series Transformer. So he's pretty big. He only comes up to his knee area, his shin probably. Here he is next to my Matoran. Whoops. This is very unprofessional because I've never had to record with something this big before. And, well, except for the unicorn, but that had a stand, and I had a better camera stand at the time. So there's my standard Matoran size figure. Still pretty small in comparison. Obviously not to scale with how big a Matoran would actually be. There he is next to one of my Toa scale figures. So Toas are slightly bigger, reaching his thigh there. And lastly, because my other bigger mocks are either not transformed or not my mocks, here he is next to a Glatorian scale mock. The Glatorian scale mocks go up to, I think that's his calf. And obviously this mock is crouching, so it's not fully accurate size comparison. But he's pretty big. He's a little bit shorter than a perfect grade Gundam, but he's pretty tall. I probably would have made him bigger, but I just don't have the parts. So now I will get Motunui out of there and show you what he looks like. Okay, and we are back. So here is Motunui outside of the Great Spirit Robot. So for his build, I'm actually really proud of how this Motunui turned out. Not necessarily his weapons, but that's because I was trying to miniaturize Glatorian scale weapons. So it's pretty hard to do that. So let's set him off to the side. For his weapons, we have his signature silver shield that the Glatorian figure had. Obviously, I didn't want to use two of this part because it would be too big, but I wanted to include it. So I used it as the base, and I attached this thruster part from, I think it was Galley, the Mystica Galley. Then there's this piece here to connect it in. Then one of the Talon pieces from the newer sets. The lower section is a double female axle piece, 3-axle that goes into that piece and then through these two wing parts. And then on the back we have one of the same axle parts that are used up there, a double female axle with a red pin for holding, and then another wing part just to add more shape to the shield. Then for his sword, it's just this little minifigure weapon piece connected into an axle, the red axle, and then just this newer claw part, and that makes his sword. Because I wanted to keep the curved bit of the sword, but I didn't have the parts for it in a small enough size. So now for Motunui himself, he's got ball-jointed shoulders, ball-jointed elbow, which allows him to rotate like that, ball-jointed wrist, which I'm not going to mess with because the Glatorian hands are prone to breakage and I don't want it to break. Ball-jointed hips, hinge knee, but that's limited by the armor, but you can do that if you want to. Ball-jointed ankle, that's limited in its upwards movement by the ankle guard. Ball-jointed head, that's limited by the shoulders. So now let's get into his construction, because he's actually a really nice build. I wish I had all the parts to build another one, so I could just make my my Makuta the same build with different parts, but I don't have the parts to do that, so my Makuta is going to have to be a completely different build. So, obviously, standard Glatorian head for the mask. No Hero Factory head because that would be too big. For his chest, he's got this silver part on top of the organ piece, which is something I really wanted to do because Bionicle characters are biomechanical, so I wanted this organ piece from Hero Factory. His torso, let me remove his limbs so it's easier to focus on his torso. So his torso is made of the smallest CCBS torso, some parts to make his skirting armor thing, his Glatorian / Anika waist piece, one of these small gray parts, and then two of these seven pinhole bits. These are only there so that they go far enough that he can actually connect into the Great Spirit robot while still being able to fold up his limbs. His legs are pretty simple. They're just a double female CCBS piece, a Glatorian arm piece, one of the gray friction pin things, and then a blue pin with the Glatorian armor piece on top, and then a Matoran foot piece. As for his arms, these were actually the first bit of the build I did, because I knew I wanted to, instead of using the spiky arm piece, use his hip part for his shoulders. So it's a hand connector with a red pin to hold this piece on, and there's this just to cover up the edge of the red pin. And then there's a red pin on both of those with this double axle tile kind of piece, one of the T connectors, a ball joint, the smallest bone piece for CCBS, and then his original hand parts. So there are these exposed ball joints here, which may annoy some people, but I wasn't going to design a whole new bit for the head and shoulders, so I just slapped one of these on. Plus you don't even really see them because you put this black armor piece, then also this piece, so you can't even really see them from the front, so you only really see them from the back. So pretty good. So lastly, I'll do a size comparison of this guy with other dudes, and then of this guy with the Great Spirit robot. So once that's done, I'll do an outro and the video will be over. Okay, so on to size comparisons. Here he is with Deluxe Class Studio Series. I think it's Scorn? I don't know his name, but Studio Series Transformers Deluxe. Here he is with my standard Matoran. So he is still taller than a Matoran, so that's good. I guess technically a Gory if I wanted to make an Agori, but I haven't done that. Here he is with a Toa, which I think this is a great coincidence that he's actually the right height as a Toa. So Glatorian and Toa are now a similar height. And then also it's good because I like the fact that this guy who's supposed to be a Toa is a bit bulkier, and then the guy who's a Glatorian is thinner and more agile. As him compared to my actual Glatorian build, he's way smaller than a Glatorian. Now, to really put into perspective how small Mon Nui is, grab the Great Spirit robot, and you can see how it... I'm trying to keep him from falling over because he's posed for hard surface right now and he's on carpet. He is still pretty small in comparison to his original body, which I like. I might make a non-Mon Nui containing prototype robot to go with this, but I don't know. I've used up quite a bit of my parts, so I don't even know if I have enough parts to do it without taking stuff apart. But I've been Gopher Studios. Make sure to check out my other videos. I have some videos pre-recorded, and those will be up whenever I decide to post them. Bye.